For exercise 3, you're going to have a chance to create a multitask workflow yourself. So you're already familiar with the metrics whittle that we created earlier, and it evaluated an alignment file. We specifically evaluated a SAM file, but you could also use a BAM file, and it reported statistics about that alignment. So this aligner whittle is actually going to create that alignment file that it's going to generate some statistics about. So we're going to write a workflow that does both of these tasks. It's first going to align, and then it's going to generate statistics about that alignment. You'll have the option to write it without imports or with imports. So here is just to show you. So don't worry about having to write these workflows. They're already provided for you in the instruct environment. Your task is actually just going to put them together and try and get that working. So I'm just going to go over this very briefly. This is the aligner whittle. It's calling the BWA align task, which produces this. So this workflow will produce an aligned SAM, and its inputs are going to be the things necessary to run that BWA command. It's going to be things like the raw sequence files, Docker image, the options for BWA, and any reference files that are necessary. You can do things also like specifying the runtime, specifying the metadata. It may look a little more complicated, but it's really just the same concepts that we've been going over through this training today. Now, you've already seen the metrics whittle and had a chance to actually play with it yourself, the same exact one as the solution from exercise 2. You don't have to use the one from exercise 2 that you created. All these files are provided in the exercise 3 directory. So the question is, do we give a complete path to the whittle task files? I think you're talking about in the imports case. Yes, you can use a relative path from when you're importing the task from where your primary descriptor is. So if it's in a separate directory, you would say it's in the parts directory and then the name. Right, so in interest of time, I know you haven't had enough time to complete this task, but we are starting to run out of time for this workshop here. You will still have access to that instruct environment. You can go ahead and try this a little later. So just want to be able to close out the workshop and talk more about things. These best practices and tips slide. We'll be sending home some take-home readings so you can read about more about this, on how to use descriptor, on how to use imports specifically, maybe some caveats. We'll be sending this to you. One thing I would like to emphasize is adding metadata and parameter metadata to your whittle files to make them more readable and understandable to others, and to also make sure that people can precisely reproduce your workflow or maybe contact you if they're having problems. We'll add more information about that in the take-home materials. And there's some more trainings and tutorial content that we've provided for you. These will also be included in the take-home resources that we're going to be sending out at the end of the conference.